Hello everybody and welcome back to Read by Ross, and let the intro speak for itself. So welcome back to Read by Ross everybody. I hope you enjoyed my double bill of videos that I made last week, and today we're going to be starting with the book that I talked about in the first video of that double bill. As you know, I got a lot of good books for my birthday this year, and I was looking through them and which one to start off with first. And I wanted to jump into something to the deep end first. I wanted to get the hardest book that I know was going to be the most difficult book to read out of the way. In saying that, I read a book that was not only emotionally and powerfully deep, but I read a book that not only gave a beautiful life-affirming message, but also a great memoir in a personal woman's life that normally people would keep to themselves. But this woman had the confidence to sit down behind a typewriter, or laptop, or pen and paper and a notebook, and write a story that really has affected her life in such a large and powerful way. With that said, I'm going to be talking about today's book, which is The Last Act of Love by Kathy Ritzenbrink. So the story is effectively a memoir that takes place from the late 1980s all the way through to 1998. And it is effectively a story about Kathy and her brother Matty, who unfortunately Matty gets involved in a very heartbreakingly tragic car accident, causing him to go into a PVS state, permanent vegetative state. And because of this, it affects the dynamic between a very loving and caring and heartwarming family ultimately to try and figure out what they should do with the rest for Matty's life. This book explores a lot of tough feelings that went on when this woman was writing it. She opens up about how she came as close as to actually wanting to think about her brother to die because he was such in a paralysed state that she didn't even come across as the brother that she once knew. They didn't know if he was resuscitating well to what they were talking about in general or anything else for that matter. On top of this, the tragic stories that goes on between the mum and the dad and the character of Kathy herself when they were just trying to go about their daily lives, knowing that their son was pretty much just a living corpse. They have the most heartbreaking scenarios. Like there's chapters in this book where she talks about how her dad would literally just sit at the edge of his bed and cry. And like, there's some very heavy, deep moments in it. But at the same time, this book is written with such love and such care towards her brother that it's such a sweet read, because you can tell that her intentions for wanting to be with her brother and wanting to look after him despite the fact of the car accident is such a gorgeous thing to look into. Now, this book also contains a lot of very funny moments as well. There's a lot of funny, realistic moments because it is a memoir, and the realism of the book is what helps the humour out in the situation, because she's obviously conveying from a point of view at a time when it was normal for people to act that way. And from what we hear about her brother Matty, he was like the funniest guy on the planet. He was quick with his wit, he was good with people, and he was just a generally sound guy. And we hear the stories about them hanging out when they were kids and being happy and just very close as a brother and sister. But then that dynamic changed, and that's when the shift in the book changes as well. Because it goes from being a rather lovely and sweet and almost touching memoir to a very tragic tale. And you're going along with it, and it's not as heartbreaking as you would expect it to be. There's still an optimism about it because they still cared for him. Like, they didn't want to kill him straight away because they held out for hope that they believed that he would come through this and the Matty that they knew and loved would come back and he would be there for them. But ultimately the PVS state that he goes through, it just takes their toll on him and it starts to wither them down. And the pressure of just being around somebody that is alive but technically not there just consumes them, and it becomes heartbreaking for them to take. The family dynamic in this book is gorgeous. There is no negative connotations. Everybody in this family is gorgeous. Everybody is happy. And unfortunately, it's not until the accident where the dynamic shifts and you see them all really sad. But they stay together. There's a beautiful message of being strong in the face of power and all of this other stuff. This book is a touching and heartwarming memoir, but I wouldn't be lying if there were certain chapters in this book that I found difficult to read, particularly with, you know, the implications of what happened to Matty and what he went on to next. But saying that, I loved this book. It was phenomenal. It's a book that I would reread again. That's how good this book is. And at the same time, it's just got this gorgeous message of no matter how bad things get, your life will always be there, and life is, you know, better than what it always seems out to be. And it has a very uplifting message and a very uplifting personal moment, and I highly recommend this to anybody who is going through any part of grief of any kind, whether it be from a lost loved one or a lost family member, or even a lost pet. Like, she talks about how even people that were coping with the death of a pet was enough for her to relate to that, you know? And she felt that she was the only person on the planet that nobody would understand about a person being dead. But it's great, and I really got a strong connection. I learned a lot more about this woman, though I've never met her before, but like I got a sense that I know her better than I think I know anybody else. And that's the strength of a true memoir, of a good memoir, is when you can walk away from it thinking that you know this person so well. Like, this is like having a conversation with a really good friend. And this book really encapsulates that, and it just captures the heart, and it gets her story out there, and hopefully it helps with her development on what she wants to go into next. But ultimately, I cannot recommend this book enough. It's a gorgeous, sad, funny read, and possibly one of the best books I've read this year. I loved it. Okay, that's all for this week's book. Join me next time when I should be showing off the books that I bought with my Waterstones £15 gift voucher, as well as any other book that I'm reading at the time that I should hopefully want to share with you until then. However, please check out The Last Act of Love or any of the other books that I've mentioned, and I will see you next time. This has been Ross Hepburn. Take care. And the reason my hair looks like shit is because it was raining outside and I just ran in and filmed this video. No excuses.